All right, so just a reminder, we have our test tomorrow, 24 hours to do that. And at the same time, we have our experiment project presentations. That will be Wednesday, okay? That will be Wednesday. For your paper, you can just, I just talked to the class here, if need be, it can be more than 1 to 2 pages, especially if you have an experiment that has a lot of detail in it to express the variables and maybe the hypothesis, the operational definition of it, just the results. If there's any information or data that you want to express and show in it, that's fine too. So it doesn't have to be just 2 pages or 1 page. You can have and express it a little bit longer if need be. No problem there. All right, so we're going to go over the study guide here, so everybody's all on the same page and that we can that we are ready for a test tomorrow. All right, so number 1, what is the first step in conducting research? Sarah, we'll start with you. Awesome, good job. Yep, forming a research question. Right, so we always need to ask a question first. We just can't just jump into experiment without stating that. So there's a question that we need to answer, and that's kind of where it leads to the formulating a hypothesis then, right, or educated guess of how to answer that question, right, or making a statement in order to try to prove our study. All right, good. 2, what is a hypothesis? What is a hypothesis? Kind of said it in the last one. Yeah, C, an educated guess about the answer to a research question. Good work. For the most part, you'll see an if-then statement. Okay, an if-then statement. So if something happens, then this will be the result. Now we always can find the independent, dependent variable within that response. All right, 3, what is the final step in a research process? What's that? Yep, good job. So drawing conclusions about the research questions and the hypothesis. Good job. All right, we all know that before we can prove our study, we need to replicate it to make sure that there's no confounding variables or eliminate any type of bias. And we need to make sure that we can show and express our data, okay, so we can draw conclusions to it. Good. Well, there you go, leads to the next one. 4, a study must be replicated in order to, Sarah? Good work. Yep, good job. And I kind of expressed that already. Eliminate any type of confounding variables to make sure that there was no phenomenon that might have occurred to skew your data or skew your response or your findings, and to make sure that there's no confounding variables. Okay, good. 5, gathering information by asking people directly and is generally done through, Michaela, what do you have? Yeah, survey. Good job. And you created your own surveys. Some was about food. Some was about the learning, synchronous, asynchronous learning, and I think mine was about the merger. So there we go. All right, 6. Which of the following can skew the results of a study? Yep, good job. Volunteer bias. Why is that? Why is that, Hannah? What do you think? Oh, you don't know? Sarah, what do you think?
Because, I guess it depends on what you're testing, but if you swing one way or another, or if I'm not sure if this is the same thing that you know you're being asked.
Yeah.
Is that what volunteer bias is? You're being used for a study, so it might change your answer.
Yeah. Or or it could just depend on your viewpoint, right? Or depend on that person's interests or obviously their opinions. So I'm not going to ask anybody about it, but let's just say we walk into the classroom, we ask everybody's political ideology, their affiliation. So we all know that they're probably going to be totally different depending on who we talk to and who we ask, and depending on which room we walk in or what environment we're in. So politics especially, we need to make sure that we can sort through some of that bias and those biases depending on what we're studying or what we're trying to find an answer to. And I mean, especially with politics, that's something that could bring up a lot of volunteer bias. All right, good job. All right, 7. Which of the following are used by psychologists to investigate an in-depth, an individual, or small group? What do you got, Michaela? C, case studies. Good job, case studies. So we talked about some case studies and resembled it to the research method here and scientific method throughout the course of this chapter. And we used Emily Rose's experiment almost like as a case study, and we used Clever Hans, right, and how we used his as a case study. All right, 8. What research method studies participants over a period of time? So I guess I should have been a little bit more detailed, but what do you have here, Hannah? Yeah, okay. So over a period of time, it really doesn't specify how long, but I guess we can conclude that it's probably a longer one, especially for a longitudinal study. We all know a longitudinal study. One of the cons to it, disadvantages, is that it might be drawn out, right? It might be very time expensive, and depending what we're studying, and what observations we're basing off, it could be really expensive, okay, financially. How did I say it with Joe Exotic? Oh, I don't think I'll ever. I forget what he says. Do you remember, Sarah?
I don't think I'll ever financially recover.
That's it, right? I don't think I'll ever financially recover from this. Well, that's funny. All right, yep. So obviously with a cross-sectional study, cohort sequential, we know that is supposed to limit the time expense, but we're not gathering the exact data that we might be looking for, especially studying different groups or different subject, right? So there's definitely disadvantages and advantages of all the studies we went over. Okay, so make sure you look over that. There might be some examples of that on the test. 9. Which observation method do psychologists use to compare the behavior of individuals in different age groups? Oh, kind of went into this already, Michaela. C, cross-sectional method. Good work. Cross-sectional. 10. Researchers use correlation to what, Hannah? Yeah, measure how closely one thing is related to another. Yeah, so see the relationship between variables, how they might be in a positive relationship, maybe negative, or they might not have a correlation. So make sure you look over those charts, those graphs, and we know exactly the relationship that we have between variables and how they represent that in data. 11, the relationship between good nutrition and good health is an example of, Sarah? Yeah, positive correlation. Good job. So there is a strong relationship between that, right? So our diet does contribute to our health. Oh, that's my worst part, especially with working out, trying to get back in shape. The diet always crushes me. It's like I want to eat hot wings. I want to eat pizza. I know it's not good for you, but sorry. Candy, chocolate. I'll work out like a fiend, but when it comes to diet, forget about it. Forget about it. Even when I wrestled, losing a lot of weight, I could never do it. It's like whenever I had the chance to drink iced tea or soda or eat candy, it's like, yep, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Not very nutritious, but it is what it is. 11, the relationship between 12, when researchers want to answer questions about cause and effect, they use what? Michaela, what do you have? Yeah, the experiment method. Good job, experimental method. All right, so we all know with the independent variable, okay, cause, right, and we know the dependent variable, the effect. Okay. 13, an experiment, the independent variable is, what do we have here, Hannah? Yeah, factor and experiment that researchers manipulate. Good job. So this is interchangeable. And we know with Emily Rose's, okay, what was changed in that study, whether or not left or right hand she was hovering over top of. And we know with Clever Hans, okay, is whether we removed the horse trainer or blocked the vision of Clever Hans, or we asked a different equation, maybe that Von Austin didn't know. 14, to ensure that people are not harmed by experimental treatments, scientists Sarah? Yep, fall ethical standards. That could work. And we went in detail about those ethical standards, and that's why I kind of want you to do this research experiment to see how maybe some of these experiments cross some ethical standards and things like that. Yeah. 15, when people agree to participate in a research study, they are, Michaela? Yep, A, giving informed consent. Good job. Good job. Is there any questions on that? Okay, I think I checked the vocab already, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, so make sure you look over your vocab, especially. Okay, make sure look over the study guide. It's very beneficial for it, and obviously the notes I give to you, so it should be good. All right, so just a reminder, we have our test tomorrow. It'll be a Google form. All right, there will be short answer on it. Okay, and just make sure that you're descriptive with it. Make sure you're using detail. And obviously, if I'll notice if there's a copy and paste in there. So if I do see it, it will result into a 0. So experimental project presentations are Wednesday. So I will have a Dropbox for that. For those of you at home, just video or record your presentation. You yourself do not have to be in the presentation. Just your PowerPoint, your Prezi, Google Slides, whatever it is. And just turn in your paper then. Okay, make sure you're citing an APA. Okay, so I placed that out earlier in the year. I know I did that for sure. Okay, and general information. Okay, we have, let's find it now. APA citation. So there's a citation format that I'd like you to use. Okay. All right, so presentation and paper. Make sure you remember that. All right, that's all I have for today. Make sure you work on your presentations. I'm giving everybody in class time to work on them now since they are due Wednesday after the test. That's it.